Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the nifty end at a record high for the third straight session, but the gains are limited. The nifty ends above 22,400 for the first time. Market cap of listed companies hitting a new high, moving closer to 400 lakh crore rupees. Moody's upgrades its India growth forecast for the calendar year to 6.8% from 6.1%. Says they expect policy continuity after the general elections, peg GDP growth at 6.4% in 2025. Google officials to meet IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav over the delisting of apps. Sources say that the tech giant will clarify they followed due procedure and gave applicants opportunities to comply before taking them down. Most of the apps that were taken down earlier have been reinstated after they complied with the bill payment system. Government's artificial intelligence advisory applies to large platforms and not startups, says the Union Minister of State for IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. This comes days after the government issued an advisory asking all AI companies to get approval before launching an AI product in India. The government is likely to delay the rule mandating payments to small businesses within 45 days. Sources say the Finance Ministry is likely to defer the implementation to the 1st of April 2025, delaying the rollout by a year after representations by several industry bodies. Insurance regulators set to consider a proposal to rationalize surrender value to policyholders. Sources say only policies surrendered after 5 years are likely to be considered long-term and eligible for higher surrender value. Life insurance stocks perk up in trade on the back of that. The AAP government in Delhi announces its annual budget with an outlay of 76,000 crore rupees. More than one-fifth of the outlay will be spent on education. Every woman above the age of 18 will receive a monthly allowance of 1,000 rupees, but conditions apply. No immunity for lawmakers who accept bribes. The Supreme Court overturns a 1998 verdict that granted members of parliament and legislative assemblies immunity from prosecution for accepting bribes for voting or a speech in the legislature. Apex Court rules bribery cannot be protected under parliamentary privilege. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris criticizes Israel for not doing enough to ease a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, calls for an immediate ceasefire. This is the strongest condemnation for Israel from Washington since the war began. Egyptian media reported there has been significant progress on ceasefire talks. For the first time in 30 years, China ditches the annual press conference by the sitting premier. The press meet by the country's top official on the economy was the only opportunity for the foreign media to engage with high-ranking Chinese officials. Also on the show, BJP reboots its Lok Sabha lineup in Delhi, benches most of the sitting MPs, nominates late Sushma Swaraj's daughter, Bansuri, from the New Delhi seat. Bansuri tells CNBC-TV18 she intends on becoming her best version instead of a version of her mother, adds that the Delhi voter is disillusioned with the Aam Aadmi Party. Well, let's start with the day's market action, where the Nifty and the Sensex did post a record closing high, this for the third straight session, but the gains were limited. The Nifty finally closing flat, 27 points higher, 22,405. The Sensex up 66 points, absolutely flat at close. The Nifty Bank 150 points higher. The mid-cap index added about 100 odd points. So a flat close for our markets, but of course not before touching new records. The market cap of BSE listed firms hitting a record high as well, nearing 400 lakh crore rupees. Prashant is standing by now with the details. Prashant, we had a working Saturday and of course now started on a record note as far as the markets were concerned, but finally closing flat.
Well, absolutely quiet kind of a day is what we had. Remember, last Friday was a massive move, 350 points on the Nifty. And then Saturday, the market traded for 2 hours, but was absolutely quiet. So in a way, we picked up from where we left off last Friday. And there was expectation that maybe there will be some follow through. There were hints of that, through the course of the day. But it was limited to the Nifty being up 40, 50 points. And of course, by close, some of those gains on the index were also given back. The Nifty Bank, which did very well, outperformed the Nifty last Friday with a 2% plus gain, also did not see very much by way of follow-through. Small caps, actually, the index was down 0.5%, and that's the reason why the overall market breadth was negative. The one space which is really doing well, and it's done well once again, is the public sector space, the Nifty PSE index on your screen, and I'll get to lots of stocks here. So, I'll begin with what was up on the Nifty. A lot of PSU, NTPC, ONGC, Power Grid, BPCL, to name a few. HDFC Life, and of course, the other insurance stocks also reacted to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Reliance Industries went up in the last hour, and there was Bajaj, which did well on some upgrades. On the lower side, Aisha lost. JSW Steel, steel was a big theme on Friday, and there was some pullback on CLSA downgrades which came through, and there was Mahindra and Mahindra, which was also under pressure. Broader market breadth negative, so I'll start with losers. Action Construction Equipment, Segachi, Tourism Finance Corporation. The hospital names continue to be under pressure. Medanta, Rainbow, Max recovered a little bit but ended lower. There was Inox Wind, policy change coming there perhaps. Juniper, the hotel company which recently listed. Sangvi Movers, GTP Health. You had Gensol, which was limit down 10% from the word go. In the broader market, gains coming through in names like BHEL. It gave up about 5% from the day's high on a clarification, but still was up. Oil India, manganese ore. Again, lots of these PSU names coming through here. Solar Industries was a big mover. KEI Industries, TD Power, Triveni, Zaggle has been a big winner 2024 so far. And something like a Gulf Oil was another one which did very, very well. So very quiet on the indices. And I think, but the broader market is seeing a little bit of pullback in various corners. So one has to remain a little watchful. Back to you.
Right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. A range-bound trading session closing flat. That was the market picture. Stock markets, as we pointed out, scaling new highs across the globe. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 also hit a record high overnight, boosting sentiment across Asia, including our markets. The Japanese Nikkei crossed the 40,000 mark for the first time. Just last week, the Nikkei hit a record high after 34 years, taking the Japanese markets back to the levels last seen in 1989. Oil prices slipping after the OPEC, along with allied members, agreed to extend voluntary output reduction until June. This is in a bid to support the short-term stability of the crude market. Now, the move is expected to cushion the market amidst global economic concerns and rising output outside of the OPEC grouping. Bitcoin's tailing a two-year high, breaching the $64,000 mark in trade today. The largest cryptocurrency by market value, Bitcoin has gained 50% this year. Most of the rise comes after the approval of the spot exchange funds for the crypto in the US, which has boosted trading volumes. Meanwhile, the overall cryptocurrency total market value passing the $2.5 trillion mark. That's the crypto rally, which continues. Moody's has upgraded its India growth forecast for 2024 to 6.8% from 6.1% earlier. However, on the global outlook, Moody's has warned that geopolitical risks have gained prominence. Ritu standing by now to take us through Moody's outlook. Ritu.
That's right. Moody's has raised India's growth forecast for this calendar year sharply to 6.8% from 6.1% earlier on the back of stronger than expected data in 2023. Now, Moody's says India is likely to remain the fastest growing among G20 economies over the forecast horizon. With global headwinds also fading, Moody says that the Indian economy should be able to comfortably register 6 to 7% real GDP growth, and after 6.8% growth this year, it expects the economy to grow by 6.4% in 2025. It also expects policy continuity after the general elections and a continued focus on infrastructure development. It also says that the ongoing supply chain diversification benefits and the investors' response to the government's PLI scheme should boost private capex as well. Apart from this, rising capacity utilization, robust credit growth, all of this is also expected to help. However, given the solid growth dynamics and inflation remaining above 4%, Moody's does not expect policy easing anytime soon and says that RBI is likely to keep rates on hold in the coming months. Globally, Moody's says that the macroeconomic risks have subsided compared to last year, but geopolitical risks, they remain prominent. It also says that for the G20 economies, collectively, they're expected to expand to 2.4% in 2024 and 2.6% in 2025, but down from 2.9% in 2023. The G20 advanced economies are expected to grow at 1.5% this year, 1.6% the next, and the emerging market economies at about 3.8% this year and 3.9% the next. And according to Moody's, the only economy that is likely to contract this year is Argentina.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. That's Moody's with its outlook on India as well as the world. Adani Green planning to raise funds through US dollar-denominated 18-year bonds. As per a report by Bloomberg, the company has given an initial guidance that it plans to raise $409 million at a coupon rate of 7.12%. The returns from this will be used to refinance senior secured notes of $500 million that are due in September. This is the first dollar bond offering from the conglomerate since the Hindenburg report was published last year. Now, the government's artificial intelligence advisory applies to large platforms. That's the word coming in from the Union Minister of State for IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, or so it seems. Now, this comes just days after the government issued an advisory asking all AI companies to get approval before launching any product in India. Ashmit is standing by now with specifics of the advisory, the government's response, and what the implications are. Ashmit.
Well, it was late on Friday night that the Ministry of Electronics and IT introduced an advisory, and under this advisory, they introduced a condition that for any large language model, AI model, generative AI model that is currently being tested, they will have to seek the permission of the government, the nod of the government before it is deployed for the public. Not just that, the advisory also said that there should not be any bias or discrimination and that there should not be any tinkering with the electoral process, courtesy these AI tools. Third, the advisory also said that there should be a pop-up mechanism that should update the user that the results being generated by this model may not be entirely accurate or reliable. Now, this sparked a whole host of concerns. This was likened to the license Raj. Many have asked the question that if at every stage of development, if permissions are to be sought, if information is to be shared with the government, if a nod is to be sought from the Ministry of Electronics and IT, that will completely scuttle the startup and the innovation ecosystem. Now, responding to these concerns, the Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, has said by way of a tweet where he said that, number one, this is not for the startup innovation ecosystem, this is only for large companies. Number two, he said this is only for AI models which are currently at the development stage and not for those which are already implemented. And number three, he said that they should act rather as an insurance policy for the companies to be cautious in their development and to not be sued by the customers at a later date. However, there are still many questions that need answering. Number one, is this advisory by the Ministry of Electronics and IT binding on the players concerned? Number one. Number two is, what is the legal backing of this advisory? Is it coming by way of the IT Act or the IT rules? The third key question that is being asked is, where is the exception carved out for the startup and the innovation ecosystem as a part of the letter of the law, which is the advisory? The content of the advisory does not specify a specific carve out for the startup and the innovation ecosystem. So a number of questions that still need answering.
Ashmit, many thanks. Yes, clarifications coming in thick and fast, but many questions remain unanswered. Now, Delhi's Finance Minister Atishi has presented her maiden budget with a total outlay of 76,000 crore rupees for FY25. The budget was themed around the concept of Ram Rajya. Atishi announced a new scheme under which the AAP government will give 1,000 rupees per month to all women above the age of 18. However, conditions do apply. Timsy standing by now with the key highlights of the Delhi budget. Timsy, 1,000 rupees for women, of course, caveats attached, but what else?
Well, yes, as you rightly said, the maiden budget announced by Atishi, her first budget as finance minister, and Delhi government has presented a total outlay of 76,000 crore rupees, where Atishi said that during this period, that is the coming fiscal, the entire budget will be financed from own resources, which is a key highlight. And yes, being a female, announcing a scheme for females was something that was expected. A new scheme, that is Mukhyamantri Mahila Samman Yojana, is proposed for the welfare and empowerment of women in the coming fiscal, where she says that all women above the age of 18 years will be eligible to receive 1,000 rupees per month, except those who are currently part of any government pension scheme or are government employees or is a income tax payer. For this, in the coming fiscal, the government has set aside 2,000 crore rupees. Apart from that, some of the major highlights continue to be the key focus on health and education continues to be there in the Aam Aadmi Party's Delhi state government budget. Delhi has set aside 16,396 crore rupees for education sector, where the majority of spend will be for new schools for specialized excellence, construction of new schools and classrooms, maintaining the existing ones, and yes, a special facility of sports education is there. Apart from that, when it comes to health Health also continues to be the focus, where Delhi government has set aside 8,685 crore rupees, where it will now procure new CAT-enabled ambulances for Delhi, preparing more Mohalla clinics, and yes, improving the infrastructure of Mohalla clinics. Existing hospitals will be further improvised, and yes, new hospitals will be constructed. 400 crore rupees specially for construction of new hospitals and expansion of existing hospitals through remodeling. Apart from that, transport also continues to be a key focus, where electric buses or EV buses is something that is continued to be a focus area. Delhi to procure about 2,080 9-meter e-buses, which will be used as Mohalla buses for last mile connectivity in the city. By 2025, Delhi aims to have more than 10,000 buses, out of which 80% will be electric buses, and 510 crore rupees have been set aside for electric buses in the coming fiscal. Apart from that, yes, women will continue to enjoy the free bus ride, for which 340 crore rupees have been set aside. Not just that, improving the road infrastructure, because considering that this is going to be a year of elections, both at the general elections and the state, they say that 1,000 kilometers of roads will be connected for more than 360 villages. So new 1,000-kilometer roads connecting 360 villages of Delhi will be constructed. Let's see what actually happens. This is the proposal and the budget that has been presented by Atishi, the new Finance Minister of Delhi.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. That's the highlights of the Delhi budget for you. Now, the government is likely to delay the implementation of the rule mandating payments to MSMEs within 45 days. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the new rules will come into effect from the 1st of April next year. Remember, the rules will mandate that payments not made in 45 days will be treated as income and subject to tax. Shivani standing by now with more details. Shivani, take us through where this leaves this matter, because there was a fair amount of confusion and concern within MSMEs.
Well, that is correct. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Finance Ministry is likely to postpone the implementation of Rule 43BH, which mandates payments to micro, small and medium enterprises within 45 days. This deferment is anticipated to be for a full financial year, with the rule now expected to come in effect from April 1st, 2025. The decision follows an outreach from various industry bodies proposing modifications or postponement of the Act. Now, various industries have expressed concerns over the shorter payment cycles, that is the 45-day payment cycle, citing challenges to their traditional practices that have resulted in order cancellations in many cases. It's important to note that the Finance Act of 2023 had introduced this rule, amending the Income Tax Act and adding a clause H in section 43B. This clause aimed to enforce timely payments to micro and small enterprises, setting a 45-day limit for the SSE. The new rule said that the failure to adhere to this payment time frame would result in pending payments being treated as income and subject to taxation. While this was a good move with a good intent towards MSMEs, the industry has said that the traditional models of credit and payment with their vendors can't be switched so quickly, and hence they need some more time to implement this. Sources say that the Finance Ministry could come out with a new notification in this regard before the Model Code of Conduct comes into play. Back to you.
Shivani, many thanks. We will head into a break, but when we return, BJP reboots its Lok Sabha lineup for Delhi, nominates late Sushma Swaraj's daughter Basuri from the New Delhi constituency. More when we return. The BJP has unveiled its first list for the Lok Sabha elections on Saturday, announcing candidates for 195 seats. What stood out, however, was the fact that the party has gone for a reboot as far as Delhi is concerned, benching most of the sitting MPs. Now, Basuri Swaraj, the daughter of late Union Minister Sushma Swaraj, is the BJP's candidate from New Delhi, where her party colleague Meenakshi Lekhi is the outgoing MP. A debutante in the electoral race, Basuri told my colleague Abhimanyu Sharma she intends to be the best version of herself.
I'm very grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, the Honorable Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji, our Rashtriya Adhyaksh Honorable JP Nadda ji, our Sangathan Mahamantri B.L. Santosh ji, Virendra Sachdeva ji, our State President, Mananiya Pawan Rana ji, our Sangathan Mahamantri in Pradesh, I would say older brother Jay Panda ji, older sister Alka Gujar ji, and every single BJP Karyakarta for bestowing this opportunity on me.
We have seen in the recent past and in the previous general elections too that elections in cities, Lok Sabha elections in cities, there are often local issues which try to become a part of the narrative, though that's usually best taken care of in municipal and assembly elections. But any particular issues you're looking to address as the campaign approaches, as the MCC is about to come in, any particular issues you're planning to address or the BJP is planning to address?
As far as local issues are concerned, that I know that the people of Delhi are sick and tired of this corrupt Aam Aadmi Party government. As I said, that they are completely entrenched in corruption. The people and the electorate of Delhi is disillusioned by the Kejriwal government, so that is going to be definitely a major issue on the ground. But because this is a union election, national issues also take precedence. One of the major issues which we are going to take to the government, to the electorate, is going to be Modi ki guarantee. Because Modi ki guarantee pure hone ki guarantee. If you actually see, Modi ji has actually ensured that each and every promise that was enunciated in the manifesto of the Bharatiya Janata Party has already been fulfilled, whether it is abrogation of Article 370, or it is construction of a very grand Ram temple, or it is about bringing 33% reservation for women in parliament as well as assembly seats, and he has already passed the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam.
Ma'am, my final question to you, big shoes to fill, not just from your mother's legacy side, but also a very high profile constituency, and more importantly, as you just pointed out, a lot of developmental schemes, a lot of benefits which have accrued to people in the past 10 years. So huge expectations from anyone who is coming out in the fray to contest, not just you. So what plans to fulfill those expectations and to ensure that there is no question from the side of the electorate that, okay, possibly we would have wanted more?
It is the right of the electorate to want more. And if the electorate wants more, we will work very hard to give them more. Regarding large shoes to fill, I cannot argue with that, but I'll definitely say I would rather be the best version of Basari Swaraj rather than be a cheap imitation of Sushma Swaraj. And I know that my mother, wherever she is, she's definitely showering her blessings on me.
Well, that's Basari Swaraj, the daughter of the late Sushma Swaraj, debuting in electoral politics. But before we go, news just coming in. The Tata Motors board has held a meeting and has approved the demerger of Tata Motors into two separate listed companies, housing the commercial vehicle business and its related investments in one entity, and the passenger vehicle business, including the EVs, JLR and its related investments, in another entity. The demerger will be implemented through an NCLT scheme of arrangements. The shareholders of Tata Motors Limited shall continue to have identical shareholding in both listed entities. This is a big surprise that's come in, and it is one that was not being expected, at least at this point in time. But this is the decision to unlock value across both both entities, the commercial vehicle side as well as the passenger vehicle side. Tata Motors now deciding to demerge into two separate listed entities. We'll get you more reactions on that. We'll take a break, return. Well, Sonia is with us. Sonia, has taken the street by surprise. It does make sense, though. Sonia?
Yeah. Yes. Shireen, can you?
Yes, go ahead.
Shireen, is my voice? Okay. So this absolutely makes sense, and I'll tell you why. This is something that the company has put out several times, the possibility of it several times in the past as well, because of the fact that there are no synergies between the passenger vehicle business and the commercial vehicle business at the moment. And what is happening is the passenger vehicle business is now consists of the electric vehicle business as well, which is growing at a very fast pace. And on the flip side, the commercial vehicle business is undergoing a bit of a slowdown across the industry. So the logical progression is to split up these two businesses, and that is pretty much what they have said in the press release as well. Now, this is something that the analyst community was expecting, but there was no assurance of a timeline on when this would come through. But now that this has come through, I think it is a logical progression, and it is a positive. The street will definitely take this with both hands.
Absolutely, because it does unlock value, and especially, Sonia, on the PV side, with the move towards electric mobility, etc., perhaps the possibility of also getting more investors on board there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm reading out from the press release, right? They've talked about how the commercial vehicle, passenger vehicle and Jaguar Land Rover businesses of Tata Motors have delivered very strong performances by implementing distinct strategies. And ever since Chandra has come on board, where he's, of course, managing the entire group, but he has also spoken about how the auto business is different verticals are moving in different directions. So logical progression for this would be to, demerge Tata Motors into two separate listed companies. One will house the commercial vehicle business and related investments. That will be in one entity. And the second one will have the passenger vehicle business, including PVs, EVs, JLR, and the related investments in another entity. Now, this demerger will be implemented through one NCLT scheme of arrangement, and all shareholders of Tata Motors will continue to have identical shareholdings in both the listed entities. Now, another positive in this, Shireen, is the fact that if I am bullish on the passenger vehicle space, then I can now have access to only that business. You see, so you don't have to have exposure to, say, a slow growth business like, say, the commercial vehicle piece, which is, as we know, in sort of hitting a peak in the upcycle. So for the last 6 months, not just Tata Motors, but even Ashok Leyland, Eicher Motors have all seen a slowdown in commercial vehicles. So I, as a shareholder, I would rather prefer to have an independent investment in the passenger vehicle business rather than commercial vehicles and passengers combined. So this is, I think, a great step from a shareholder perspective. And Tata Motors, as a group, the Tata Group has been doing a lot in the auto space. And Tata Motors has not only been cleaning up its balance sheet, but has been focusing on specific areas. And this, I think, will be a win-win for the stock. In any case, if you look at it, Tata Motors has had a dream run. I mean, the stock has more than doubled in the last 12 months. It is because of corporate decisions like these that the company has, and of course, shareholder beneficial decisions like these, that the stock has been moving higher. And I think this is another feather in its cap. So all in all, it's a great decision. And they've also mentioned that all shareholders of Tata Motors will continue to have identical shareholdings in both the listed entities. Back to you.
That's right. That is the decision that the Tata Motors board has taken. Demerger into two separate listed entities, one that will house the commercial vehicle business and its related investments, and one that will house passenger vehicles, including electric vehicles and JLR, as well as related investments. As Sonia was pointing out, it was anticipated that this would be the logical course of action. There was, of course, no timeline provided by the company, but it is now a decision that's been taken, and this should certainly help in unlocking value. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.